Joseph's story begins not in triumph, but in the quiet folds of family life, where love and jealousy lived side by side. Jacob, the patriarch, was a man weathered by years, a man who had wrestled with God and men, and out of his 12 sons, it was Joseph whom he loved most. Love, though a gift, often casts a shadow. For Jacob wove Joseph a robe of many colors. The threads shone like sunlight caught in fabric, reds, blues, golds, and greens, a garment too fine for ordinary days. When Joseph wore it, he carried the symbol of his father's favor, the sign that he was set apart. To Joseph, it was a token of love, but to his brothers, it was a wound. Every thread told them they were less, that no matter how hard they worked, they would never hold their father's heart in the same way. Resentment is like a seed. At first, it seems small, buried, invisible, but watered by envy, it grows quietly until it cannot be hidden. Joseph, in his youth, did not see how his words and dreams became drops of water upon that seed. He was a dreamer, a boy whose nights were filled with visions larger than life. In one dream, his brother's sheaves of grain bowed to his. In another, the sun, moon, and stars bent toward him. To Joseph, these dreams were mysteries to be shared, wonders too large to keep. He told them eagerly, perhaps with innocent excitement, perhaps with youthful pride. But to his brothers, every dream was a reminder of their father's favoritism, a reminder that even heaven seemed to conspire in Joseph's favor. Their jealousy turned bitter, their words grew sharp, and though they were bound by blood, the divide between them deepened. One morning, Jacob sent Joseph to find his brothers, who were tending flocks far from home. Joseph walked alone, his robe of many colors catching the sunlight, a banner announcing his approach. From a distance, the brothers saw him. His robe, his stride, his presence, it stirred every ember of resentment into flame. "Here comes the dreamer," they muttered, their voices low and dangerous. "Come, let us kill him, and we will see what becomes of his dreams." But death was not the path they chose. Instead, they chose something crueler. They seized him, stripped him of his robe, the robe that had always separated him, and cast him into a pit. The pit was dry, its walls steep and jagged. Joseph cried out, his voice echoing against stone. He pleaded with them, begged them by name. But above him, his brothers sat down to eat. The sound of their laughter, the breaking of bread, the smell of roasted grain, all of it drifted down to him like mockery. Betrayal is never just the act itself. It is the silence that follows, the refusal to see another's pain. Soon a caravan approached, Ishmaelite traders bound for Egypt. Their camels carried spices, resin, and myrrh for markets far away. Judah spoke, "What profit is it if we kill our brother? Let us sell him instead." And so, for 20 pieces of silver, Joseph was sold. The rough rope bit into his wrists. The foreign tongue of traders filled his ears. The sand rose in clouds beneath the caravan's feet. He turned once, searching for even a flicker of regret, for a brother's gaze softened by love. But their eyes were hard. Their silence sealed his fate. In Egypt, Joseph's life became the rhythm of servitude. He was purchased by Potiphar, captain of Pharaoh's guard. Yet even in chains, Joseph's spirit remained steady. He worked with diligence, and everything he touched prospered. Potiphar saw his faithfulness, and entrusted his household to him. Joseph rose from slave to steward, his hands managing wealth, his word carrying weight. But shadows lingered. Potiphar's wife cast her eyes upon him. Day after day, she sought to draw him near. But Joseph refused, saying, "How can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?" Spurned, her desire turned to rage. One day she seized his garment, but he fled, leaving it in her hands. Twisting truth into a weapon, she cried out against him. Potiphar's anger burned, and Joseph was cast into prison. Once again, he was stripped of honor. Once again, he was condemned, without defense. The stone walls of prison closed around him, and years passed in silence. Time in prison is unlike time in freedom. It drips slowly, each day blending into the next. Joseph's youth faded into manhood behind those walls. Forgotten by men, he clung to the memory of God. Even there, he served. He gained the trust of the prison keeper, who placed other prisoners in Joseph's care. Among them were Pharaoh's cupbearer and his baker. Both were troubled by dreams that left them restless and afraid. The cupbearer dreamed of a vine with 3 branches that budded, blossomed, and brought forth clusters of grapes. He pressed the grapes into Pharaoh's cup and placed it in Pharaoh's hand. The baker dreamed of 3 baskets of bread upon his head, and in the top basket were all kinds of baked goods for Pharaoh. But the birds came and ate them. They turned to Joseph, asking for meaning. Joseph listened and said, "Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me your dreams." To the cupbearer he said, "Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head, and restore you to your position, and you will place Pharaoh's cup in his hand, as you used to do. And to the baker he said, "Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift off your head, and the birds will eat your flesh." His words weighed heavy. Yet, just as Joseph foretold, on the 3rd day Pharaoh celebrated his birthday, restored the cupbearer, and executed the baker. Joseph pleaded with the cupbearer before he left, "Remember me when it is well with you. Speak of me to Pharaoh, and get me out of this prison." But once restored to the palace, the cupbearer forgot him. Days turned to months, months to years. Joseph remained, his hope tested by silence. But heaven's memory does not falter. Pharaoh himself dreamed dreams of fat cows devoured by thin, of full stalks consumed by withered ones. None could explain them. Only then did the cupbearer remember Joseph. He was summoned from prison, cleaned, robed, and brought before Pharaoh. Standing in the palace, Joseph spoke with humility. "It is not in me. God will give Pharaoh an answer." He revealed the meaning. 7 years of abundance, followed by 7 years of famine. His wisdom pleased Pharaoh, and in a single moment Joseph was lifted from prisoner to governor. Second, only to Pharaoh. The pit and the prison lay behind him. Before him stood a throne of power. But power cannot erase memory. The famine spread, and with it came those who once betrayed him. His brothers arrived in Egypt, their faces gaunt, their eyes pleading for grain. They bowed before him, just as his dream foretold. But recognition is not reconciliation. Joseph knew them. They did not know him. His heart roared with conflict. He longed to embrace them, yet he burned with the memory of the pit. Forgiveness is not quick. It is a battle of the heart. So he tested them. He spoke harshly, accusing them of being spies. He demanded they bring their youngest brother, Benjamin, as proof of their honesty. Reluctantly, they returned home, and brought Benjamin back. Joseph's heart trembled when he saw him. Benjamin, the only other son of Rachel, his mother, his blood in the purest sense. But still Joseph waited. He needed to know if his brothers had truly changed, so he devised another test. He filled their sacks with grain, secretly returned their silver, and placed his own silver cup in Benjamin's sack. As they left the city, Joseph sent his steward after them. The steward overtook them, accusing them of theft. They protested, declaring their innocence. "Whichever of us has the cup shall die, and the rest will be your slaves." And so the bags were opened, and there in Benjamin's sack lay the silver cup. The brothers tore their clothes in anguish. They returned to the city, fell before Joseph, and begged for mercy. It was then that Judah stepped forward, his words echoing with a new spirit. "Let your servant remain here as my lord's slave in place of the boy, and let the boy return with his brothers. For how can I go back to my father if the boy is not with me? No, do not let me see the misery that would come upon my father." This was the turning point. The brothers who once betrayed Joseph now offered themselves to save Benjamin. The pit had broken their pride. The years had softened their hearts, and Joseph could no longer hold back his tears. He sent all others out of the room and wept so loudly that the Egyptians heard. Then he revealed himself. "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" His brothers stood speechless, struck with terror. But Joseph, through tears, embraced them with words of healing. "Do not be distressed or angry with yourselves. You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring about the saving of many lives." Forgiveness did not erase what they had done. The scars of betrayal remained. But Joseph chose to transform them. His wounds became wisdom. His suffering became salvation not only for himself but for his family, and for nations. And so, Joseph's life speaks beyond its time. We all know the sting of betrayal, the loneliness of waiting, the ache of wounds carried for years. We know pits dug by others, prisons not made of stone, but of silence and disappointment. We ask ourselves, what do we do with these wounds? Do we allow them to harden us? Or do we allow them to shape us into something more? Forgiveness does not erase the scar. The scar remains, a reminder etched in flesh and memory. But forgiveness teaches us to live with it differently. It turns pain into preparation, betrayal into wisdom, wounds into sources of strength. Joseph's pit became his passage. His prison became his training ground. His palace became the place where reconciliation bloomed. His story asks us still, does forgiveness erase the wound, or does it teach us to live with it? Perhaps both. Perhaps forgiveness is less about forgetting, and more about transforming, about saying, this pain will not rule me, this betrayal will not define me, my scar will not silence me. Joseph's life is not just the story of one man. It is the story of every person who has been wounded, betrayed, forgotten, and yet chooses to rise not in bitterness, but in mercy. His story invites us to believe that even in our deepest pain, God is at work, weaving threads of redemption we cannot yet see.